I actually love that. Our daughter got baptized about a month ago in FSM as a 15-year-old. And FSM does like the confetti, and it's just a beautiful picture of and hype of following Christ for those students. So I love that. I'm excited to be here today. Guys, we've been through some like hard talks together, discipline, correction, extinction, spanking. I hope today we can have a little bit more fun as we talk about building a strong family unit. So it's going to be a fun, encouraging talk today, I hope. I want to take you back about 8 years ago in my life. I found myself through some crazy events that only God could have orchestrated. I found myself in a hospital room meeting a tiny baby girl that we had found out only hours before that we were probably going to be adopting her. As I held that precious, tiny little baby, I looked down at her little hand and saw this hospital bracelet. And for name, it said Thesby June. Thesby. That was not a name that I had ever heard of. And it was just a whirlwind of a day, and that night I climbed into bed and was just thinking and praying and asking the Lord to give wisdom for the next days and weeks that might follow with this pending adoption. And I found myself starting to think about that name, Thesby. What does Thesby mean? So I take out Google and Google Thesby. And Thesby was Greek, meaning unknown. And so I started thinking about that birth mom, and I knew that she had done everything that she could do to keep her pregnancy a secret, to keep the baby a secret. And I could only imagine that she chose that name with that meaning as a way of signifying what she was trying to do, to keep the baby unknown. And as I thought about being unknown, I started thinking about the beauty of being known. And when you're known, you can be a sister. When you're known, you can be a daughter. When you're known, you can be a friend. You can be who God created you to be and be loved by Him. And after we adopted Thesby, we named her Nora Jane. Nora meaning light, and Jane meaning God is gracious. She is known and loved. She's 8 now. She's a precious daughter, friend, and sister. And today, as we talk about building a strong family unit, I want to think about just the beauty of being known and loved, not just by God, but also in our family. And I'm going to change that word unit to strong family team, because I grew up in the Hemingway ski team. This was not an actual team, it was just our own family members. But my parents did a great job early on in instilling between me and my 5 siblings this camaraderie. My dad was very into water skiing, and thus the rest of us kind of followed suit, and thus the Hemingway ski team was born, along with a logo and t-shirts and hats, etc. When Dad does something, he does it 110%. But by giving us a name, he created this camaraderie and excitement around our family. And now, as I'm working to create my own family team, Team Livers, as we call ourselves, we are working towards building a team mentality and strength in our family. And I just want to share today some of the things that I have learned along the way. So as I started thinking about a strong family team, I thought about building, first, a strong relationship with God. Second, building a strong marriage. Third, building a strong connection to our kids and our kids to their siblings. And then lastly, building a strong community. Carrie did such a great job last week of helping us understand our need for having a healthy self-image and how that comes from being known and loved by God. And guys, that's the easy part because God does it all. God already knows us and loves us. The King of the universe knows you and loves you. I'm going to read from Psalm 139, 1 through 16. O Lord, you have searched me and know me. You know when I sit and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me. Your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. You formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me. Meditating on who God is allows us to then pour out that love to others. He loved us first so that we can love others. Without God's love at the center, it's really hard to grow a strong family team. As a wife and mom, being connected to our Creator is of utmost importance because He will be our strength. So, little plug here, definitely come back next semester because we're going to spend 5 weeks kind of digging into the details of what it looks like to stay connected to God and to connect with God in a really practical way. So, come back next semester. That's a shameless plug. Because of that, I'm not going to dig into all those details today. The second way to build a strong family team is to build a strong marriage. Unfortunately, I do not have the perfect formula for you in your marriage. I also, unfortunately, do not have the perfect formula to build strength in my own marriage. But I will say that time plus love plus respect is going to move you towards strength in your marriage. Nate and I found out early on that when I showed him respect, then that motivated him to love me well, and that love then motivates me to respect him. And we could get on this healthy cycle of love and respect. Unfortunately, it was also very easy to get on what Emerson Eggerichs calls the crazy cycle, when I would lack in my respect to my husband, that then tended to make him struggle with loving me, which then that lack of love made me not want to respect him. And the crazy cycle would go on and on. We would use this language to kind of help us get a pulse on where we are. Are we on the crazy cycle? Kind of feeling crazy right now. But kind of diagnosing where we were, and then trying to figure out how to stay on that healthy cycle of love and respect so that our marriage could continue to move in strength. Connectedness tends to breed connectedness. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Like when you are feeling so close to your husband and you want to keep staying connected. But it's also true that disconnectedness tends to breed disconnectedness. And so what can we do in our marriage to stay connected? After a lot of months, years, who knows, of having some very frustrated evening, maybe you can relate. Husband comes home, you're exhausted, you're tired, here's the kids, let me go fix dinner, just, I'm tapped out. After a lot of that, I kind of took a step back and started to realize I need to change what our evenings look like. This is not working. And so one of the simplest things I feel like I did in our marriage was kind of critique that and then make a change. And I called it Welcome the King to the Castle. We did not live in a castle, but I got this idea in my head that right before Daddy would get home, we would prepare the castle, we would kind of clean up everything, and then welcome him home in a way that just said, we're stopping what we're doing, Daddy's home, all the hype, all the hugs and kisses, sometimes a cold drink, just to say we thought about you. We are glad you are home. And it really wasn't so much the act of welcoming him home, but it was more about me making a conscious decision to stop, to welcome, to create a pleasant atmosphere for my husband to walk into. It honestly changed the temperature of our home for the evenings. It made it a more joyful, peaceful place. And my heart started to soften towards Nate. Instead of thinking about the hard day that I had had and how frustrated I was with the kids, I started to kind of consider that maybe he had had a hard day too. Maybe he was exhausted and stressed and needed a soft place to land at the end of the day. Take something that you're already doing, take a routine that you already have in your marriage, and maybe think outside the box. Think of a way that you can make it more fun and more enjoyable for the whole family. And it just takes a little bit of thought, but it could change your whole evening. Let's talk about date nights. I don't know why I feel a little cringy. Well, actually, I do know why I feel a little cringy about using that word date night. I think for so many years, I beat myself up in my head because we didn't have a typical date night like a good Christian couple. And a lot of people will say that's foundational in your marriage. Well, during our early years of marriage, when we had 3 kids, 4 and under, my husband was working 80 hours a week, finishing up residency. We had no money. We didn't have family in town. And so getting a true typical date night was really complicated. So instead, we had kind of what we called check-ins, where it was still finding out the pulse of our marriage, still checking in, but a lot of times it was Saturday mornings while the kids were playing in the yard and we were drinking coffee. Sometimes it looked like later nights after the kids had gone to sleep, and we would have takeout and connect then. The main thing was not the date night, but it was taking time to intentionally prioritize our marriage, and it didn't have to look like everyone else's. date night. And so I would encourage you to find what works in your marriage, even if it's different than everyone else's marriage in here, because your circumstances are different, your personalities are different. So find something and start there. As a side note, sitting on the couch doing this next to each other is not a date night. This is not connectedness. This is not moving towards unity. I'm in it with you because obviously I have a phone. Work on putting the phone away and not just spending time together, but in spending intentional time together. It's hard, I know it, but it's worth it. When I was a kid, we would periodically have family meetings where mom and dad would call us all together for sometimes a pretty serious talk, some sort of announcement that maybe we were moving or mom was pregnant again. Sometimes it was a discussion about a discipline issue, but it was a time where the kids were brought in on some of the harder parts of being part of a team, and we were given a voice, a chance to ask questions, a chance to maybe show some emotion. If we were moving, there were tears, but we were given a chance to talk with mom and dad and just be part of the family team. The thing I remember most about those meetings is that mom and dad would end the meetings, usually like holding hands or hugging or doing something we all thought was gross, maybe a kiss or whatever. But they would say, y'all have a lot as kids to worry about, but one thing we never want you to worry about is us getting a divorce. We are committed to each other. We love each other. You may see some of our fights. You may see some of our disagreements, but we love each other, and we are committed in our marriage, and you don't have to worry about that. And that's, for me as a kid, the stability. I don't remember worrying about my parents getting a divorce. And that's something easy in our own homes. It's something that I want my kids to not worry about. And so talking to your kids about the strength of your marriage and reminding them and reminding yourself, we're not getting a divorce. We're committed to each other. Stability is such a gift for our kids. I'm grateful that my story does include parents that were committed to each other and still are. They've been married for 51 years. But I know in this room, that is not the case for everyone. And a lot of you have divorced parents. And I just want to encourage you today to lean into God's grace in that area of your life, and also take the challenge and the blessing that it is to change the legacy in your family to a marriage of strength. Having a strong marriage not only benefits the marriage, but also the whole family. The third thing we're going to talk about is building a strong family by connecting early and often to our kids, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And then also encouraging our kids to be connected. If you have more than one kid, our kids to stay connected to their siblings. I came across this quote by Ready, Set, Parent. Kids don't remember the perfect days. They remember the routine ones, because to them, repetition isn't routine. It's how love proves itself. I'm going to read that one more time. Kids don't remember the perfect days. And I would even challenge, is there such thing? But kids don't remember the perfect days. They remember the routine ones, because to them, repetition isn't routine. It's how love proves itself. One way to strengthen our family connections is creating these routines. Some might call them traditions, but I like the idea of having routines that already go with the rhythm of your family. These routines do not have to be anything crazy or complicated. They don't have to be centered around the holidays. In fact, I would encourage for you to find things that aren't centered around the holidays. Center them around things you're already doing: bedtime, car time, meal times. Look at your family habits and rhythms and find ways to make them memorable and fun. This is just something that your family has that's different than all the other families. It creates a camaraderie and connectedness between you and your kids to their siblings. So the Hemingways, the family that I grew up in, they have homemade chocolate chip cookies and popcorn. We had it every Sunday night growing up, and I'm pretty sure my parents still do that to this day. Nothing complicated, nothing expensive, but it was just what we did on Sunday nights. We have family sayings that we still use to this day. We have an understanding of what the Quietus means and what the Hemingway curse is. We share memories and fun and hobbies and a language that our Hemingway ski team just gets. Game nights, movie nights, puzzle nights, service projects together, family handshakes, family theme songs. You get the idea. Look for ways to create those memories. Play up the team mentality with your family. It's really fun, and it can be fun to just think outside the box. One day after school, we were driving home, or so I thought we were going home, and the kids were like, "Can we please go get a treat? We need a treat." No. And for whatever reason, as I'm driving along, I decided that I would act like I did not want to go get a treat, but the car did. And so I kind of start doing a little jerky on the steering wheel, speed up, slow down. I'm like, what is the car doing? I'm playing up the hype. And sure enough, the car drove us straight to the ice cream store. And thus a tradition had begun. After that, every time, and still to this day, I was asking Marley, I was like, hey, what does it mean if the car drives kind of crazy? She goes, we're going to get a treat. So those kinds of things are what your kids are going to remember. Act a little crazy. They will love it. What about spiritual connections? What does that look like with your kids? Does your kid know their God story? Starting around my kid's first birthday, and I do it every year on their birthdays, obviously the first few years was me more getting used to the language of telling them their birth story. And then as they've gotten older, I sprinkle in more details. But telling them their birth story, the days leading up to their birth, the day of their birth, and some of the days following their birth. My mom did that for me. And as a kid, I knew the time that I was born, I knew how her water broke, I knew all the details surrounding my birth. And that gave me a sense of belonging. And knowing where I came from just gave me security. And now it's fun to get to do that with my kids. Because we have adopted kids, we call it their God story. And I love telling it to them on their birthday. Everyone has one and should know what theirs is. Belonging and being known and being loved gives our kids security in a way that the world cannot offer. And reminding them that their God story looks different than everyone else's, but that it is important. And also reminding them that their God story is continuing. It wasn't just the day of their birth, but that we get to walk alongside of them for the rest of their God story, which is exciting. If you do have more than one kid, look for a way to instill in them sibling connection. It's so fun and also can be so frustrating at times because they will do this, as you might know, but also getting to remind them, one day, y'all are gonna be best friends. Or isn't it awesome that y'all get to grow up together and you're gonna know each other the rest of your lives? You can look for ways to have them be each other's biggest cheerleaders. Look for ways to have them work on a project together and celebrate when they complete a task. When your kids become besties, your family team becomes stronger. Each member of the team needs to know that they are valuable and that they each have different roles in the family, but each role is important. Another great idea that is hard in this digital age is printing pictures. It is so fun to see your kids just looking at photo album, at picture after picture. They love seeing their past, and it's just such a great reminder of belonging for them. So this is your encouragement to print the pictures. Week 3, we talked about how one size doesn't fit all with discipline, but that's also gonna apply today in connecting with your kids. Each kid is so different. And as you connect with your children, with each child, look for those differences. Know what fills their love tank. Know their love language. And specifically, try to pour into your kid in a way that makes them feel loved. But I would also say, think about what you want to be doing when your kids are teenagers. I remember when one of my boys was younger, I kind of noticed that he was kind of an awkward hugger, and he would just kind of, turn his back to me. And I was like, you're 5, and you're already struggling hugging me, but I want to be hugging you when you're a teenager. And so I started normalizing hugs and saying I love you when they were little. And now that they're teenagers, it's much more normal to hug and to say I love you. We can also build a strong family team by building a strong family community with like-minded believers. As a kid, I went on a lot of father-daughter trips with my dad and his close guy friends and their daughters. And it was just a time where we would hang out, make memories, do some water skiing, and it was building in a community of other parents that loved on me and pointed me to Jesus. And so I remember my parents saying, when you're with the Masons and the Corbins, we trust them. They have like-minded values, and so we trust their judgment. It is a beautiful thing when you find other families. Look for other moms that love your kids like their own. I have told my daughter Marley so many times, I want you to know if you can't talk to me about something, you can talk to Miss Christie, you can talk to Laura. I want you to go to them because I know they're gonna point her to Jesus. Remind your kids who's in your community so that if they can't talk to you about something, they can go to those other moms. I'm gonna show you a picture of our family and 2 other families in our community. This particular picture was taken after 3 of the kids had been on overseas mission trips to 3 different countries, and then 2 of the kids had done some local missions for a week. And we got together after all those mission trips, and we had the older kids share how they had seen God show up in these foreign countries and in the local missions work, and normalized them just sharing what God was doing, how they saw God work overseas, how they saw God work in their lives. We asked them questions, and it was not only such an encouragement, obviously, to the parents, but there are little kids in this picture too, and those little kids were watching their siblings talk about Jesus. Creating family moments that focus on God at work makes a stronger family team. One of the best things I've done for my kids is just surround them with so many people that love them and point them to Jesus. It takes an investment, it takes time, but it's worth it. So just in closing, building a strong family team comes from building a strong relationship with God, a strong marriage, connections to our kids, and a strong community. When we grow a strong family, we're living out the gospel and living out God's calling on our lives as moms. This is such an honor. Psalms 133:1 reads, "Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together in unity." Let's pray. God, thank you so much. You created families, God, and we get to be such a picture of your love as we love our husband, as we love our kids. God, thank you. Help us to look for ways to strengthen our families and just to give us wisdom as we parent and as we honor you in our mom life. As we break out into our small groups, God, I pray that our time would be just vulnerable and that we would have times of sharing and just encouraging each other as moms. We love you so much and we thank you for today. In your name, amen.